Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you didn't get to check out part 1, you might want to jump over there and check it out before we keep going here with part 2. Today I think I'm going to jump on the hydraulics on this sawmill project and see if I can get it up and running. So let's get to it. I'm going to get a new hydraulic positive cable made up, and we'll get this contact right here all assembled back together and put back on, and then hopefully I can test out these hydraulics and make sure all of them work properly. So there it is, assembled. We'll get it over here and put it on the machine and see how everything lines up. This cable can be a little hard to work with. It looks like it's riding a little high on this strip, so I'm going to drop it down just a touch. It looks pretty good, but my washer on top of that bolt is riding into this track and it's grinding into it. You can see that shiny spot right there. The washer on that bolt's rubbing into this strip. So I'm going to take that washer off and see if I can find a little bit smaller, or at least grind it down on that. Alright, what I done was I took the washer off of it and I put a lock washer on it that's smaller, and I kind of slid this terminal back as far as it would so that there would be a little bit of a space that this block to wear into before it even gets close to touching this. So that looks a lot better. It looks like it's in good contact. Actually, I think I might raise it up just a touch. That looks a lot better. Looks like it's making a whole lot better contact. Now I'm going to clean this copper strip right here. You can see it's got a lot of, it's just real dirty because it's been sitting for a long time. I don't, you know, who knows how long it's been since it's been cleaned. So I ended up taking some brake clean and spraying on it, taking a rag and wiping off all the residue and the dirt on it, and then I ended up using an emery cloth like this. I got the hydraulic cable, power cable put back on here, and then I got it hooked back up to the solenoid here and tightened down. So now it's time for the test to see if all my hydraulics work and all this copper strip works and power to my hydraulics and everything is there. Okay, I'm going to turn the key on to accessory, and I'm going to roll the saw head back toward me. Hopefully when it hits the copper strip and makes contact, you won't even know it, other than the fact that I should have power up here that I could run my hydraulics. So here's battery power coming in. This solenoid feeds the cable that goes to the hydraulics. So there's that one. I got nothing on this side. My control is turned on. Let me see if that ground is good. And my ground is good. So this solenoid should be energized and I should have power coming through this, but I do not. I thought I checked this, but maybe I didn't. So I'm gonna have to pull this solenoid out, and it's probably gonna be the same as those other ones with the burnt windings. Alright, I haven't had a good track record with these solenoids here, and this thing is littered with them. It's got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's got 7 of this style of relays or solenoids right here. So I'm going to just take my meter and go across the control side here and see if I get a reading. I've only had 1, 2, only 2 out of the 5 so far have been good. So let's hope these 2 are good. I got this relay isolated. I got the terminal, the wires pulled off, so there's nothing hooked to it. So I'm gonna go across the control side here and hopefully I get a reading. So more than likely this solenoid is open. And let me see what this one does. I do not have this one disconnected, but I mean, if it's open, if it gets a reading, then I'll take it off. So no, I don't have nothing. So both of these solenoids are, the windings are open. Joy. So the ground side comes down through this blue wire and it goes through this micro switch back on this red wire, and the electrical side is really simple. It's just a little micro switch, but the mechanic, if you notice, every time you pick up or push down on the lever, it pushes down on the micro switch, and it does it all the way across on every one of them. And I think what happens is whenever you push down or up on the hydraulic lever, it closes this switch, it puts the ground to the controls on the solenoid, sends power onto the hydraulic pumps here and kicks them on, and then that way you can operate it as long as you're holding whatever position you're on. And you let off, it quits running the pumps. Problem is with my meter, when I'm checking the circuit, so this would be the blue wire one end, and then this wire is damaged and you can see the strands, but if you go ahead and touch it right here, I got 0.1 ohms. When you move the lever, the resistance actually goes up. But I'm going to take it off and have a look at it. That's better, which is weird. It should read out of limits, but it's, I mean, 5 mega ohms is a lot. I think I'll fix these wires and then I'll see if it actually operates it. Maybe it will. That'd be sweet. All right, I got the wires fixed on this micro switch, and I got it hooked up to the battery, so it should operate this solenoid. So let's see what it does. That's beautiful. So all I got to do is get the relays took off for the hydraulics and get them fixed and get them put back on and hook all this back up, and my hydraulic system should function as normal. Alright, I got this solenoid built, and it's back in this fuse box right here. Alright, I also got these 2 built, and I got them put back in the box here with all the hydraulic. I also got the micro switch right here back on, and everything is hooked up. In theory, it should all work. Let's find out. Alright, key on. No smoke. Let's see what happens. I forgot the saw head ain't back far enough. Alright, take 2. That's the rear roller. Here's the front roller. That's the log turner. this here is my clamp. All the hydraulics function, comes on like it's supposed to. Solenoids are working. Getting that much closer. I'm gonna pull this cover off here and look at the brushes in this motor and see if I can see what's going on with this thing. Now this motor was stuck when we went to pick this thing up. This wouldn't turn. He had to beat on it and keep working with it, and finally got it freed up. So that's just a retainer. And then there's a spring. I mean, the brush looks pretty good. It's got a decent amount of life left. They might actually put some in this thing. That looks pretty nasty in there. I see a lot of loose rust. So the arm that holds the brush in is rusted into, but it's still in here. And it's still holding. I don't know where that went. It's up there. Springs are still good though. It's a little hung up in there, so that might be the issue. It gets dragging on these slides right here and it won't move. It could possibly keep it from running or running properly, I would imagine. I'm going to attempt to just maybe try to clean these guides up where the brush is set, and hopefully I can get it to moving pretty good. And if it's moving nice and free, I think I'm just going to stick it back together and hook it up and see what it does, and hopefully that'll take care of it. Now this side spring retainer clip was broke. I'm going to use the one for the other side, because the other side I can see a whole lot easier. This one's on the bottom. Alright, there's that one. I'm going to leave this cover off. I'm not going to put it back together in case it don't work. Then I got to take this right back out. Alright, let's see what happens. So the rheostat's turned way down. That's why it's turning slow. I'll crank the rheostat up and let's see if everything moves like it should. So that's max speed. So far so good. So that looks like that took care of it. I don't know what that knocking is. I don't really like the way it sounds. It almost sounds like it's in this bearing. That's just about as slow as I can get it to turn. I'm gonna go ahead and put these caps back on, put this end cap on, and then I'm gonna see if I can figure out what that noise down there is. I'll go ahead and brush these, give these a good brush, make sure those bottom posts are tight, and then I'll tighten these up and cover them up. Okay, I got all this motor put back together. I'm gonna turn this on, and maybe you can pick that clicking up a little bit better here. I took a stethoscope, and it sounds like it's coming across this back of this shaft, but it sounds more to this side. It's weird how it kind of comes and goes though. It's a pretty nifty little setup to get the belt loose. If I can just maybe get it off of here. Well, I had it. There we go. Okay, I got the gear off here, and with the gear off, I do not feel any of that movement over there in that gear or in this shaft. So I'm thinking that that sprocket on the inside, which is right there, I'm thinking that that sprocket might be welded on the end of this shaft, and you would probably have to take all this right here out and drive this shaft out that way. But I'm going to put this gear back on and make sure these set screws tighten down. Looks like it's got a hole right here for one of them. So I'll get that lined up, get it tightened up, and see if it's any better. Okay, I got this gear back on, I got the belt on and tensioned up. I got this pulley. I made sure to tighten those set screws pretty good. So let me turn it on here and we'll see if I can get that noise out of it again. Here's reverse. And here's forward. That seemed to take care of it. So it looked like it was just this pulley, the set screws on it might have just been a little loose. So there's that. The next thing I want to do is get this water loop system took care of. I want to get these lines took off right here and replaced. They're stopped up pretty good. They got some dirt and wasp or mud dauber nests in them. So I'm going to just go ahead and change those lines out. I'm going to change that line going out that way out. And this valve right here, I'm going to go ahead and take these fittings out because you look, these are spinning in it. So I'm going to go ahead and take both these out and put some Teflon on them just so I don't have no leaks. This is the old water jug that was on it, and you can see where somebody tried to repair it right here. I put some water in this thing and flipped it up, and it was leaking pretty good out of it. So I just got one of these off Amazon, and I think it'll do the same thing. It doesn't quite sit in there as well. I'm gonna have to probably set it up on a little 1x board just to get it up because it kind of rubs on the neck, but other than that I think it'll be fine. Okay, I got the new line put on here. I got the thread locker around these fittings and the new line going that way. The line on this side comes out. It should come down to this bearing guide that's on this side, but I have it took off because the bearing's bad in it. But it will mount right here, and then for now though, I got it on this piece down here in a bucket so it can drain into. All right, let's open the valve up here. So water should be able to flow. So far, so good. And then I'm going to turn this on. And then that valve will only come on whenever the power feed switch is moving forward. So we'll flip this up. Good deal. So it's flowing. I would probably adjust this down to where it doesn't flow as much. Like that. It just depends on what I'm cutting, I guess. But nothing here, no leaks. Looks good, looks good. So I'm gonna shut it off and make sure everything quits flowing. And shutting it off. Perfect. All right, we're getting closer and closer here, little by little. The next thing I want to kind of mess with here is over on the engine side. So this is the air filter box. I want to get this took off and check that air filter, make sure it looks all right. So I'm going to go ahead and take this air filter out and have a look at it. I hear a lot of trash down in here. Telling you what, man, these daggone rodents will get in any place. That acorns, nest material. Wow, look at that. They even chewed on the daggone filter. Sheesh. I got this cover back on, but the air filter is not in it. But the thing that I really don't like is this throttle cable right here, rather. Well, I guess it still has linkage. It comes over here and then it comes down. And it's right against this fuel line. I mean, look at this. Look at that, where it's been on that so long. And there's no way that it should be this way. Not only that, see the bend that this thing comes out and it's down. I'm not real sure what it's supposed to look like, but I'm almost positive it shouldn't be that way. But if you get up here to what it's actually hooked to, right here, this doesn't move. I can't move this at all. And I would think that when you go to when you disengage it, the belt, this engine will rock back towards the mast. And when it does, this cable should let go and this should come back to this screw for the stop. So the belt is disengaged here, but it's still, you got a little bit of slack on this, not much, but I mean there's no movement on this linkage right here, and it should move. So it's just running at whatever this RPM is right here, whether it's engaged or not, as soon as it fires up. And if you remember when it did fire up, it ramped up pretty quick. So I'm gonna see if I can get this cable off, see how stuck this is, and see if I can get this to move. Okay. So like I said, this linkage right here, is what's going to control the RPMs when you rev it up or bring it back down to an idle. But this thing looks stuck to me. I mean, I can't budge it, so there's no point to have a daggone cable on it. It don't do nothing. It's got 2 set screws. It's got one for when it comes this way and one for when it goes that way. It's right in the middle. I mean, you don't need them. It's stuck. I hope I can get this thing freed up. I've been working with this throttle linkage right here, or this throttle lever. It was not wanting to move real easy. It should have a spring tension to pull it back to an idle, so it gets this stop screw. I finally got it to where I can hear the spring in there clinging, like when it's trying to, like if it's, you know, sticking or rusted up a little bit. So I finally got to where I can move it fairly easy, and it does have that spring tension right there, and that feels pretty good. It's not really wanting to go all the way back, but just a little bit of push and it'll go back. I don't know if you can hear that little spring clicking on camera. So that's what it should be doing, and it should be here when the engine is laid over like this, because then everything would be disengaged. It would just be idling. Then when you engage the blade, it will rock the engine and set it up straight, and when it does, the cable would pull this to where it's ready to have a load put on it, so it would just bump the RPM up. So I've been playing with it a little bit more, and it's looks like it's working pretty good now. It's full travel all the way there. It's got a lot of spring tension pushing back, and it's coming all the way back where it needs to be with this set screw. So we got that freed up, and it looks like it's working properly. I won't know completely until I'm able to fire this engine up. I'm gonna go ahead and get all this fuel line replaced. I got some new lines, so I'm gonna go ahead and change it all out, all the way over to the engine, which comes down, it pops up and comes up over here, and some of them has been rubbing on the starter housing right there, so it's wore into it. It's close to leaking, so I'm gonna go ahead and get all that changed out. Here's the new fuel line, all put on, routed, ready to go. I got it all zip tied up where it needs to be, and then there was a couple of spots up here. I'm not real happy with this, but at least it's better than it was. This is the right size. The fitting coming off of here was not a 1/4 inch, it was like 3/16. So the same thing with this one over here was a 3/16 fitting. So what I done was, they just had a 1/4 line clamped down on it real tight. I just pulled, I just got a 3/16 line, and I run it down into a reducer adapter right here. So that should take care of the fuel system to that point. The owner called me yesterday and said the parts was in, so I got a box of goodies here. There's the blades for it. There's a couple of pieces that's back ordered, which is this main drive belt, unfortunately, which is really what I need to start putting it back together, and then this hose for this bearing. I think I have something that I can use for that, so I'm gonna see how it works. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the fuel filters changed out. It's been on there a little while. That made a mess. There's that one. Now I'm gonna get this filter right here that's on the engine. And don't forget to make sure this old O-ring comes off with the old filter, and be sure to put the new one on with the new filter. It goes around the spout that comes off of this. And the reason I fill them up before I put them on is because it makes it a lot easier to get it started. You don't have to crank and prime as much, hopefully. Sometimes These diesels can be a pain to get started, so hopefully this will help that a little bit. And that's that one. And I go ahead and write the hours that it had on it. That way I know, hopefully this hour meter works. And the date. The tube that goes on this bearing is apparently back ordered, so I don't know how long that would be. But I went out and got some vinyl, some clear vinyl tubing. I believe this stuff is oil resistant. I'm gonna try it and see what it does. All right, let me see if I can get this thing filled up. I don't know where that's coming out back here. For some reason, it looks like it's coming out this fitting. I can see it bubbling up. But I'm not real sure where it's coming out, unless it's just a vent. Oh, I bet that's all it is. I do see a hole right there. I bet it's just a vent so that when it gets hot, it can breathe a little bit. I hope. I don't know. Kind of makes sense to me. I still think it gum up some more. Works a little bit better if you hold the funnel part a little lower. And then if you want more in it, you raise the funnel up. I ain't smart enough to figure that out first time. That's weird. I mean, it seems to keep going right back to that spot. It has to be going in there though. I just don't know why it don't fill up more. It looks like it's still at the add mark. At least if it ain't, it's just a touch over it. I want it a little bit higher than that. Sheesh. Alright, let's just stick some more in it here. It looks like this finally got up to where it needs to be. So I got the hose right up against it and it's right at the top of the full mark. So I'm gonna call that good. I'll find me a clamp on it, put it up here, and I believe that's that. I'm gonna go ahead and stick these tires on these wheels. This one on the idle side and the one on the drive side. There's that one. Now let me grab the other side. And there's that one. All right, I got a new air filter here for it, so I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in it. And I got some oil and a filter, so I'm gonna fire it up and let it run for 5 minutes or so, get the oil nice and warm, and then I'm gonna change the oil in it. And plus I'm gonna check that throttle lever up there and make sure it does what it's supposed to do. Hopefully it'll fire up like it did, but I doubt it because I had the fuel lines changed and new filters, but we'll see what it does here. Looks like the glow plugs are working. Hey, it kicked off. Sounds a lot better, a lot lower RPM. Sounds good. Sounds really good. All right, I'm gonna drop the oil out of it and put a new filter on it. I'm just gonna let that drain. Let me spin this oil filter off. Looks like Kohler and Lombardini are the same thing. Because I've never heard of a Lombardini till this engine right here. Made in Italy. Put some oil in it and we'll fire it back up. That's a funny looking oil cap. I'm gonna say it holds around 3.5 quarts once it gets in the filter. We'll fire it up and see where it's at. Looks like it's just a touch on the top of the full mark, so it's gotta be good. I'm gonna go ahead and get all these wires straightened up and wrapped in some loom and tied up where they're not just hanging down like that. The red one is on the other end over there, ain't hooked to nothing. The terminal ends actually broke off. So I'm gonna probably just get rid of this one altogether, or I might just, like I said, cut it and just leave it in the harness. The gray one here is hooked right here and comes out of this main harness, and it doesn't go to anything on the other side. There's a terminal end, but it's not hooked to nothing. So I'll probably, I'm not a big fan of these type of connections. So what I'll do is pull that wire over to here and probably cut it and hook those together. So this red wire right here that's cut, looks like it comes to this terminal end right here. So I'll make sure to get that out of the way. This gray wire right here was the one I was talking about. It goes down and hooks in to this little T fitting right here. So I'll get rid of this connection right here and put a better connection there for it. And then I'm going to cut these ties here off and look for that green wire and make sure this is all decent, and then I'll wrap it all back up. So this green wire, which is right here, it comes into this bundle right here, and I don't believe it's hooked to anything. They just got it all taped up together. So there's another one that don't really do nothing. This is a pretty good size blue wire that runs up here with it. I'm gonna pull this tape off and look at it though. So yeah, they're just beside each other. They don't really do nothing. I mean, these 4 wires that are over here, they do nothing. There's nothing going on here. I'm going to pull all this out. I might take all this stuff out and get rid of it. So this big blue wire right here, it runs all the way up this harness, and it looks like it's on the main positive starter lug. So it's battery voltage all the time. So I'm going to get this out of here so this hot wire ain't dangling around anywhere. Right here. I'm gonna get rid of this one connection right here, and that'll get rid of all this. Yeah, I really don't like these type of connections, especially outside. I mean, it would be one thing if it was, you know, in the interior of a car or something, or somewhere where it's going to stay dry, but not out here. So let me shrink this up. Alright, there's that one. I'm gonna go ahead and fix this red one. Okay, I wasn't a big fan with that little bit of pigtail I had, so I made another one here. I had one of those ends. I got some heat shrink on it, and then we'll get these put in this connector right here. All right, get this one plugged back in. I think that was the only ones. Well, wait a minute. This wire right here is nicked. Well, I don't have yellow, but I do have another end. So what I'll do is, if I can get this unplugged, I got some black. I'll just put a piece of black on it. I lied to you. I did have a piece of yellow. So I got it already ready to go. Let me strip this one. So there's that one. I'm gonna leave these exposed just in case something is not working right. At least I can take a look at them, or maybe unplug them a little bit without stripping everything off of it. I don't have any bigger loom than this, but this will have to work. With it having those connections and stuff in there, I don't know that I can even get a piece over that, but I'll try. I'm also going to zip tie this harness right here on this bracket, just to kind of take some of the strain of it just hanging there. And that way all the vibration of the engine will kind of hold that too. I think this one would be better if I tie it over here as well too. There we go. I got a new bell here for the power feed motor. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on. I've already had this one off once when I had that pulley that was making that noise, so I'm not going to video it, but I'm gonna go ahead and slap this on. All right, got the new belt on. I'm gonna go ahead and put this guard back on, and that'll take care of that. The next thing I'm going to jump on is I got a bearing rebuild kit for this idle side, the blade guide roller. So this side here, this is the drive side. It feels and sounds pretty good. So I don't have a kit for this one, but that one over there, if you look here, you can see the ball bearings are all, there's a few missing, and the outer cover is gone. That covers the bearing because it's a sealed bearing. Same with the back side. I mean, they're exposed and there's some of them missing, so I'm gonna get this thing rebuilt. Now I gotta drive these out. Got the universal bearing driver here. Alright, got that out. We'll drive the new ones in. Now with these, I'll take a little bit better care and pay more attention, because I want to drive against the outer race. The outer race is what's pressed into this pulley here, so that's what you want to drive against, is the race that is contacting the component that you're pressing it into. So I need a little bit bigger socket. So that one there fits a lot better, and it rides more on this outer race. And make sure it seats down, and you can usually tell by the way it sounds. That one looks good too. Another way you can tell is if you, where this one has a snap ring, you should be just below the groove. You can see it right there. So now I'll put this snap ring in and that'll be that. There's that one. Alright, so the belt finally showed up and the oil level tube showed up. That looks awful similar to what I put on there, so I'm just going to leave what's on there be, but I can go ahead and start putting this thing all the way back together. Now that I got this belt, I can get it put on. I'm going to have to disengage the belt because right now the engine is setting up vertically, so I have to let it lay over to put the slack in it so I can get this on. Alright, the belt's on both ends, so I'm going to re-engage the belt and take a look at it and see what it looks like. So I can't engage it fully, so I would say it's too tight. I'm going to have to make some adjustments. Right here's the turnbuckle to adjust the belt tension. So I'm going to break these jam nuts loose and make some adjustments here. Try to get this belt on. We're getting there. I think that's just a little too tight still. That feels pretty good. It says it should be about 11 millimeter deflection with about 16 pounds of force. I have no way of really checking that, but from what it feels like, I think it'll probably be good. I'm gonna clean this brake drum here off, give it a little scuffing. All right, here's the braking band. I got it cleaned up and put it on. Now let me see what it looks like whenever I disengage the belt here and engage this brake. And just make sure it seats on here good. Yeah, that looks good. This braking band is what limits the travel from that engine when you disengage it. If you don't have this thing on it, it'll lay on the air filter box against the mast, and if you take the air filter housing off, it'll go even further down. But all this right here moves, so it tends to want to start to put this harness in a little bit of a pinch if it goes too far. So I just gave this gearbox a bath, and this support bearing, I'm going to fill it full of grease to push out all that old grease just so it's ready to go back in. That ought to do it. And once I get it installed, or actually back on the mill, I'll go ahead and pump it full of grease. I'm gonna get this gearbox set back in here and this support bearing. Okay, before I get this all put back in here, this hose has been on my mind, and I'm just gonna go ahead and change it, because if something happens to this thing and it doesn't do what it's supposed to, and that leaks out and causes bearing failure, I'd be sick. So I'm just gonna put that hose on it while I got it right here and I'm staring at it. All right, there's the new one. That's the one that goes on it, and it's filled up, so that should be good to go now. Now I'll jump back down here and get this gearbox and bearing put in. I did not change the fluid in this gearbox yet. It takes a really weird synthetic gear oil. It's like 140 weight, straight 140 weight. I will get some, but it looks like right here would be the fill plug and this will be the drain. So I think it only holds 16 ounces, but I do want to get some and change it out, and I will get some. I'll get the chain adjusted up once I get it all put back together, because you have to run the saw head all the way to the top of the mast and then do the adjustment. I'm gonna go ahead and put some grease in this before I put the motor up here. Get the new belt put on here, and I'll take care of this one. Now I'm gonna get the tensioner down here hooked up, and all this will be good other than hooking up these cables here. All right, all this here is done. Motor's on, tensioner's on it, belts, both belts, brake band, fluid, hose, yada yada. All this is done. So I'm going to take the tension off the chain and get this chain off here, and then this would be back on its own power. I can move it up and down as I need to. Okay, I can't run it the full travel, but I'm dying to know if everything works, if I can move it a little bit, and if everything sounds good and functions good. So I'm gonna try it out real quick here. Down seems all right. Up seems all right. So it looks like everything works good going up and down. I'm tickled to death with that. That's awesome. I know I still got to lube the slides up on the mast and clean them off. It's got some surface rust. Also, I noticed I have these slides for this thing, and all of them look good, except I just noticed this one here is broke. So that'll be a bear to change that, because I have to support the engine and the saw head completely independent, so that I can collapse these and have to get those out. That'll be fun. Okay, so I got this saw head lowered down here so it's more at eye level, and I'm starting to see things a little bit different. I've seen a couple of things I didn't see earlier. So this harness that I pulled off earlier, because it ran over to this side of the engine and it wasn't not hooked to anything, I got to looking and I noticed a blade on this, looks like a water temperature sensor right there. I don't see nothing in this one, so I don't know if that would be something for the oil, but the oil switch is on top, and it has it but that water temperature I definitely want it hooked up. That's the one that was in the gray wire that went down and had that T connection. It goes to the fuel shutoff solenoid. So I'm gonna have to put this back in there because I want this in case it does overheat. I want it to be able to shut the engine off. Okay, I got this new harness run that goes to this water temperature sensor. It comes around this side, and I just got a single wire, and I got this little conduit that I just run it in it and tied it to this harness. And then I come up and then I made a connection into the gray wire going to the fuel shutoff solenoid. So I'm gonna fire it up and make sure that it works. What should happen is that this water temperature sensor does not have any continuity to ground, and when that switch, if it gets hot, it'll close the switch and it should ground that circuit, which should shut this off and kick the light on. So I'm gonna turn it on here. So all these lights are on. My water temperature light is not on, and it shouldn't be. Now I'm gonna fire it up. And then if I was to short this to ground, it should kill the engine. Let's see. So that's exactly what it should do when it overheats. It should kill the engine. That way it don't cause any damage. And if you notice, the light's on now. Now this circuit goes through this little circuit breaker right here. So it gets warm, it opens up, so you gotta let this cool off, and once that cools off, the light will go out, and then as long as the short ain't there no more, or the overheating temperature is gone, it'll fire back up. Something else that I didn't notice is that this little sensor right here, or solenoid or whatever, I've seen these blades right here that there was no wire going to them. I'm not real sure what that does. It goes into the intake, but I really don't know what it does. I have to figure that out. But right now it's probably 90-some degrees and I'm burning up, so I'm gonna go get in the pool for a little bit. I'm gonna attempt to get this throttle linkage here all hooked up and adjusted. I don't have a tachometer to see how fast I'm turning, so I'm just gonna, I don't want it to pull it all the way to the stop, but I at least want it to pull it past halfway. I'll have to get a tachometer and then kind of do the fine tuning later, but that's what I'm going to do for now. I'm going to fire it up and see what it does. I went ahead and got this shield right here on and this shield right here. Communication line right here. I'm going to go ahead and hook it up before I get any farther because it goes up back here on this sensor. All right, bad news. I had it running and I was going to try to move the up and down, and when I hit the up and down, it didn't move. And then I noticed that my display here is gone. So everything else works. Everything works, even the forward and backward. Sounds like it's rubbing on something though. I need to check that out. But this one clicks, but won't do nothing. Up and down motor is tied into this setworks, so it kind of goes through this. Now it could have something up here jacked up, and that stinks. Wow, I hope it's not that. So that's going to do it for this video. I was glad that we was able to get the hydraulic systems all up and running and everything looks like it works good. However, I do not know what the problem is and what's going to happen with this setworks box and it not working, not the display not working. Hopefully we can figure that out and it doesn't turn out to be anything major. Be sure to keep an eye out for the next video get uploaded, and until next time, thanks for watching.